In this video, I'm going to be talking about the importance of introducing therapeutic techniques to young people, especially within a school system, and how this can enhance their understanding of themselves and the world around them.
I am the social development lead at States of Mind, which means I help create courses and programs and do writing, so like blogs, for new ideas that we can create and develop to help young people and their mental health, to help them with increased awareness and understanding about who they are and what's going on. States of Mind do a lot. I would kind of break it down into two main camps. So looking at helping young people and empowering young people to understand their minds and their feelings and their experience, and making sense of it in a way that isn't necessarily a diagnosis, but is more of a story and a narrative that makes sense to them and fits with them and allows them to actually move forward in the world and thrive. And then the second thing is looking at school and how can we make school a place where well-being is a priority, where young people feel happy, supported, where there is a good relationship between teachers and students, work and students, and looking at what can we change and what can we embrace to make school a happier place for all of us. That the States of Mind approach is very much working with the people who are going to be impacted by the resource or the course or a project, rather than working for them or on their behalf. It's about empowering young people, giving them power and educating them too. And I think that's a really key element of this, like the whole psychoeducation side of it, which is really important in States of Mind. That's something that I personally didn't experience in other mental health avenues. I've lost the word for that though. Yeah, within other mental health services, I didn't experience an understanding of learning theories and learning about people who had spent their whole lives devoted to understanding the mind. And the really key thing about this approach is that it means that the young person can then take what they've learned, apply it to other areas, and keep the learning. It's the beginning of a journey, it's the start of a long process. And that's what's really key. That's really important. It's in fact, it's the groundwork for everything that we do at States of Mind. This idea of collaborating and doing it with compassion and empowering people and giving them a voice. And I think that that's a real area that the mental health industry could embrace. And it's a really, I mean, we've seen some really amazing things with young people, some really incredible feedback about them experiencing a much deeper level of self-awareness, a much greater understanding of who they are, what they want, and what they stand for. And this is something that doesn't just stop in a session or while they're doing a course. It carries on and it ripples out into their own lives and the lives of people around them. So that's really key for States of Mind. And then we're looking at ways in which then young people can use that feeling of feeling empowered and feeling like they understand themselves to change the world around them. How can they help to make the world a better place? So for example, looking at schools, how can young people use this knowledge about themselves to create something that can support all the students at the school with their well-being? How can we see that ripple effect from when we work on ourselves to changing the whole collective? So it's really about starting with that individual action, looking inside, and then seeing that ripple outside. This approach of kind of, to succinctly put it, as doing with, not to, or compassionate collaboration or co-creation, it has the potential to have really wide-reaching effects on how young people view their mental health, both their own and the mental health of their peers, and in fact of all human beings. I mean, it's a really key thing that when we understand ourselves, we often gain a greater understanding of the people around us. And so I think the fact that young people are more able to understand themselves through this creation, through this process. They feel like they have a say in what is happening. They have agency and power, which is something that as a young person, I can attest to not always feeling like I have, often feeling like I am powerless and confused, and especially with policy and lots of very important things in my life that I often feel like nobody wants to hear what I have to say about them, and yet they affect me directly. Thinking kind of about things like Brexit or the climate. And only recently have people kind of started to listen to young people on these issues, mainly because we have had to fight to make our voices heard. This approach doesn't mean we have to fight. We don't have to expend energy on trying to be heard. We are invited to talk. We are told that our opinions are half of the thing, you know, rather than being, oh, like, yeah, we consulted young people. It's not consulting, it's working with young people. We are co-creators. And I think that approach has the ability to revolutionize how we look at our mental health, because now we're no longer just a patient. We are working on our mental health with someone. And that sense of agency, that sense of power, it really allows us to take responsibility for how we feel, for how we act, and for what we do with this information. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. It's
a real springboard as well for then young people to go out, and when they think about their mental health, maybe there is that voice that says, you can't control this, but there's that other little voice that says, but what if I can? And I have past experience of knowing I can from when I worked with states of mind. And it's having these experiences and changing these really fixed ideas that then has the power to change other ideas that we may see as very fixed. The potential of integrating therapeutic practices into our daily life, especially when we are, you know, as young or 16, is a really amazing age where we are maturing and gaining this amount of self-awareness that maybe wasn't quite there before. And I think the key thing is that, I think there are many key things. It destigmatizes this idea that therapy is only for people who are sick or ill in some way. Actually talking about our feelings is great. It's healthy, whether or not we feel ecstatic or incredibly sad. The amazing thing is it gives us time to process what we're feeling. And sometimes we want to hold on to that feeling, and so talking about it is great, but otherwise we might not. And so talking about it can help us to let it go. But either way, we take whatever information that feeling is giving us. And I think that therapeutic practices, they help to really kind of, for want of a better word, hammer in this reminder that actually everything that happens to us is something to learn from, and it can be a vehicle for our growth. And I've learned this so much with my feelings, that every feeling I experience, it's a piece of information. It tells me something about how I'm feeling in this present moment, and it's invaluable. And that's something that that's an awareness that I didn't have until I started looking at my life through therapeutic processes and applying them to how I was feeling and how I was experiencing the world. And so I think it's about that on a very personal level, but it's also about therapeutic processes lead to a greater understanding. And actually, I think that's what we need as a species, as an entire planet, a greater understanding of one another, and an understanding that we're all different and we're all unique, and we all bring this unique, amazing perspective. We all have very similar problems. We're all made up of the same stuff. And that understanding starts within yourself. It's kind of a similar thing with compassion. Compassion, and true, unrestrained compassion for all beings, starts with feeling that for yourself. And so not only does introducing and integrating therapeutic practices into teenage life and into education make every experience a vehicle to grow, but they actually enhance our personal relationships and how we feel about people we don't know and might never know, and how we feel about people who might not like us. That's been a huge thing for me, that I can still feel compassion for someone who might not like me. I could not do that before at all. And I still struggle with it, but I'm able to then show compassion to myself and able to see that I'm worth it. And that has revolutionized the way that I interact with the world and will continue to do so. And I think the amazing thing about embedding these therapeutic practices within education is that education is a space to learn. It's a space to learn and a space to grow. And as States of Mind very much believe, personal growth has been left out of that. And I think that's something that we can see even all the way back to Ken Robinson's TED Talk, when he talks about creativity in school, that this is a problem that we have recognized, but it's also a chance for schools to adopt this process of us learning about who we are and learning to live in accordance with our truth and growing as human beings and evolving, which is what we're all here to do. And that having that at school means that A, people take it more seriously. You help to remove some of the stigma. It becomes something that is for all people. You know, if these therapeutic tools aren't just for a select few, they're for anyone, no matter who they are and no matter how they feel. And of course, one thing isn't going to fit everyone, but that's the beauty of psychoeducation, is you learn about all of these different avenues and you're able to pick and choose what works for you. And so introducing it to these people and to young people at this age and within a school environment gives them a chance to then go out and research and continue this journey on when they leave school. It gives them a foundation, which is what school is meant to do for life. So one thing that we've been working on developing over 2020, I was going to say this year, but it's not this year anymore, was a psychoeducation course based on the work that States of Mind were doing in schools for students to use online and with facilitated teaching as well. Because obviously with the coronavirus pandemic, we've had to adapt the way that we work, as most organizations have. And so out of that came this psychoeducational course. And this course, our aim is to get this out to as many students aged 16 and above in education. And I think that's a really key thing that's on my mind now. How can we spread and share this learning and make it available for young people at such a crucial point in their lives within education? We've already talked about how amazing it can be to integrate these tools for self-development and self-understanding within a place that is designed for learning. We introduce this aspect of learning about ourselves, and that is just a truly amazing thing. It doesn't need to be spiritual, it doesn't need to be religious, it's educational, and school is the perfect place for that. University, school, sixth form, any of them is wonderful. So our focus is going to be on getting that out, on looking more as well into how can we make school a better place. I think this is another key area where I see real potential for States of Mind to influence policy and change the way we relate to one another within schools. How can we help schools embrace self-development and embrace learning and growing? And I think a key way to do that is to change how students feel within a school. I just left school last year, and while I was in school, I didn't feel like I had much of a voice. We had a school council, but there was an understanding that school council didn't really do much. And I think that for students who've worked with States of Mind in school, that's not the case, actually. They do feel slightly more empowered. They do feel like their teachers want to hear what they have to say. And that feeling of empowerment, that feeling of having a part to play within school, being more than just a recipient of learning, actually being an active participant, is something that we want to keep developing and keep growing. And I think that's why the work with looking at Ofsted is so important, and looking at how can we better assess how good a school is? How can we better assess how happy the children are in a school, and therefore how successful the school is? And so I think there's the real room to expand into looking at more schools, looking at more boroughs. And then, this is a big one, but I'd say we could try go global. I think there is a real reach, especially right now. Obviously, we'd have to start with English speaking countries, just because otherwise we'd need lots of translators. And hey, maybe that is something we would look at as well. But how can we help empower young people everywhere? How can we change the way that they relate to themselves and to other people, and the way they understand themselves? And I just think this is an area where this, actually, there is no limit. I think it's all about creating a world where we feel a connection to one another, and where that changes the way we act with people and with the environment. And we know that actually the way the world is going right now isn't so great. You know, we've got serious issues with our climate, serious issues with our politics, and serious issues with the way that we all feel about one another in terms of countries. And I think that that means that while that's scary, that means we can change this though. We can turn over a new leaf. We can begin to work in a different direction where we hold collaboration and love and compassion as key things, where we're concerned about truth. We're concerned about what feels true to us, what feels right, what makes us happy. And happiness, we've known this for thousands of years, is one of the main things that human beings want. We want to feel happy. We want the people around us to feel happy. And so with States of Mind, we want to cultivate a society that does value happiness. But even more than that, it values understanding, and it values compassion as a base for that happiness. And I think as a planet, we've got a long way to go, but we're on our way forward. So States of Mind will help to carry us there.